Thank you. Thank you. As Maria said, I'm Vice President, Head of Real Estate Law for Macy's, but I'm also, in my what free time I have, I'm the co-chair and president of the GCMCP here in Cincinnati. And does everyone know what the GCMCP is? I see some heads shaking, so I'll tell you. It's the Greater Cincinnati Minority Council Program. Do you know what our mission is? Anyone know what our mission is? It's really simple, and it cuts to the heart of why I'm here to talk about the business case for diversity and inclusion. It's basically the purpose of the organization is to drive corporate legal spend to minority attorneys in the greater Cincinnati area. And why does that organization exist? Well, it exists because of this notion of the business case for diversity and inclusion in the legal profession. So what is the business case? You hear that often, the business case for diversity and inclusion. What is that? To me, there's no one right answer. I think it varies from organization to organization, but it really boils down to this. Everyone, I think, agrees that diversity and diverse and inclusive workforce is a better thinking workforce, a more productive workforce, and a workforce that better connects with your clients or your customers at the end of the day. For my company, Macy's, that's very much true. We want our workforce and the people that we hire to work for us, i.e. the law firms in the legal case, to be reflective of the diversity of our customer base. You think about Macy's, big department store retailer, we have an extremely diverse customer base, not only within the United States where all of our retail locations are, but outside of the United States as well. You know, we get a lot of business from foreign travelers from all over the world, right? In places like New York and San Francisco, Chicago, Miami. People come from everywhere to visit our stores and buy our stuff and then fly back home to where they are or where they live. And so we have a very diverse customer base, so we need to make sure that we have a diverse workforce and the people that we hire reflect that diversity as well. I mean, that trickles all the way down to the law department and the law firms that we hire. And so that, to me, that is the business case in my mind. And so this concept of business case is not new. There was who's heard of the Harry Pierce letter? Anybody heard of the Harry Pierce letter? So Harry Pierce was the general counsel of General Motors in the 80s. And in 1988, 89, I'm not exactly sure of the date, the year, but it was 88 or 89, he wrote a letter to all 900 law firms doing work for General Motors. And he said to them, hey, I want you to do more work for us, but I want it to be staffed with minority and women attorneys. And a lot of people look back at that letter as sort of the seminal moment for the business case for diversity and inclusion in the legal profession. Because from that letter, there was a significant growth in minority and women-owned law firms. And obviously, the peer companies to General Motors looked at that and said, oh, you know, that's a great idea. We need to be doing that too. And into the 90s, in 2000s, you have sort of the growth of the business case for diversity and inclusion in the legal profession. And so when you often talk about it, you talk about it in terms of okay, how do we sort of implement the business case, right? And you often hear the term carrot versus stick. Do you use a carrot or do you use a stick? And if I were really creative and had done some slides, I could have done a carrot leading a pack of dogs around a track, for a dog racing, or a cartoon of Wile E. Coyote getting smacked in the head with a stick, right? But I wasn't creative enough to do that, so I'll talk about it in terms of sort of implementing the business case. In my opinion, the Harry Pierce letter was kind of the carrot, right? He said to his law firms, I really want you to use diverse counsel. And I'm going to continue to give you the work if you do that. But he didn't really use the stick. He didn't say, I'm going to take it away from you. And there's been a slow evolution to sort of the stick approach, from that point, right? In 2004, there was a call to action signed by 100 GCs of companies, where they committed to basically limiting or removing work from law firms that didn't meet the company's standards for diversity and inclusion. And so you can see that there was a trend, right, from the Harry Pierce letter to the 2004 call to action, from a carrot to more of a stick. But I'll say this, I don't think it has to be one or the other. It can be both. You can incentivize your firms or you can incentivize your firms to have more diversity on your matters, and you can also penalize them if they don't meet your standards. I'll also say that I think that it doesn't have to be law department to law firm. You can use the carrot and stick approach internally within your decision makers in your law department. And in fact, I'll say that in my case, in my company's case, that exists. We are held to sort of the to both we're held to the standard of meeting the company's diversity and inclusion standards in hiring outside counsel, and we're also incentivized to do that. When I started at Macy's, it was more of a carrot approach. We would meet with our law firms on an annual basis, and we would talk about how are you doing, how can you improve. We didn't really do anything beyond that. We didn't say, we're going to take the work away from you if you don't meet these standards. Now we have a Latina, Elisa Garcia, who is our CLO, my boss, and she applies both. She applies the carrot and the stick, both in-house to her direct reports who are hiring legal counsel, and to our law firms. And she's willing to take business from those law firms that don't meet our standards. But I think for her, the most effective way to accomplish our goals is by incentivizing me and her other direct reports to make sure we're meeting those goals. And in fact, I personally have a diversity and inclusion goal as part of my annual performance obligation, and part of my compensation is tied to that. I'll say I did pretty well in 2019, so that's good. But you can use both. It doesn't have to be an either or choice. Both are effective at getting the job done and making sure that your vendors are achieving your diversity and inclusion objectives. So the unfortunate part is there's a lot of data out there that suggests that we're talking the talk, but we're not walking the walk. And so how do we do better at walking the walk, right? How do we get there? For law departments, what I said, don't be afraid to use the stick. I think there's always been a resistance to that because, these are a lot of long-term relationships, and it's harder to find to go away from that relationship, and so you might try to incentivize that firm to improve their diversity, but you're not going to take the work away because it's just too hard, right? I think that's too easy. And then incentivizing the decision makers inside your department, and then checking yourself, making sure that your department is meeting your diverse standards. And that's an important one. And sometimes that you find out, oh, you know what, we're actually not as diverse as we should be or could be. For law firms, I think it's make it impossible for law departments to overlook your lack of diversity, and that's by becoming more diverse. I've had talks with law firms that I use and about their diversity and their inclusion and their efforts, and when I've asked them to do better, the common excuses I've gotten are, well, they're too hard to find, and the law departments poach them from us after we've trained them, and then they go in-house. I think those are easy excuses, but ones that aren't really, I don't think, accurate. And my response is, work harder to find qualified candidates. And if you can't find a qualified candidate, find a good, diverse candidate and train them to be qualified. And then do better at retaining them. There's a lot of data out there that says that firms are doing better at hiring diverse associates, but they're really not doing better at promoting them to partner. Those are some sort of, what I see is easy ways, maybe not so easy, but some clear ways to go from just talking the talk to walking the walk. But I understand that it is hard. One last point, we as a profession remain a very non-diverse profession, right? We are trailing behind other sort of white-collar professions in terms of diversity. And so we need to do more as a community to make the legal profession more attractive to people with diverse backgrounds, and that certainly will solve or help solve the problem of there aren't enough candidates out there, or if there are good candidates, they're all going in-house, that sort of thing. So with that, I think I'm probably over 10 minutes, so I'll stop it there and open it up for questions. Thank you.